The cost of living crisis has been staring us in the face for 6 months now, and it's a real problem for people struggling with their bills. And the cabinet meeting this morning isn't going to change any of that. We've got a government that has done very little in relation to energy bills. It's made a bad situation worse by choosing to put taxes up. This month, this week, people will see their pay packet with less in it. So we need an emergency budget to grip this situation. And at the very least in that budget, I want to see a windfall tax on oil and gas companies in the North Sea, made more money than they were expected, more profit, and use that directly to pay up to £600 off the bills of those most in need. And I also want to see the reversal of this increase in tax, the wrong tax at the wrong time. So an emergency budget, not a cabinet meeting.
So would you have to raise other taxes to fund support for people? Because even £600 won't cover the increase in people's bills, would it?
Well, an emergency budget, which included a windfall tax on oil and gas companies, would allow up to £600 off the bills of so many people who are in need. But also we need to get rid of the tax rise, because people will be opening their pay packet this week and seeing that not only are their bills going up, but their income has gone down because the government has chosen to tax them at the moment. So at the very least, we need those two measures. I've been talking here in Stevenage to businesses, and we need measures to support businesses as well. I'd like to see business rate relief for businesses. I'd also like to see more support for businesses that are energy efficient. And beyond that, I also desperately want the government to claw back the £11.8 billion that they lost in fraud or bad contracts during the pandemic. So the argument the government's trying to put forward, there's nothing we can do, is absolute nonsense.
For many people here, of course, the cost of living crisis will be their number one issue. You spent a lot last week talking about Partygate, that fine that the Prime Minister received. Have the Shadow Cabinet told you to start talking more about the cost of living rather than going on about the Partygate?
When we started the local election campaign, we had a laser-like focus on the cost of living, and we've maintained that throughout the campaign. And that's why this week we're calling for that emergency budget, because the government has done so little. It's not risen to the challenge that so many people are facing, and it's made a bad situation worse. And the choice not to go after the fraud money, the choice to impose tax, is the government's choice. So I'm very happy to talk about that all day long. The problem with Partygate is that, the government itself is distracted. It was the Prime Minister who had to come to Parliament to make a statement because he'd received a fine from the Metropolitan Police. So whilst they're embroiled in an argument within their own party, so many people are struggling with their bills.
Are you happy the police are dealing with it appropriately? Because the fines are just dripping out very, very slowly, aren't they?
I think there just should be maximum transparency here. We need to know what's going on, and I'd like that to continue as the principle.
Can I just ask you on the local elections, what would success look like for Labour?
Well, we've got a fantastic team of candidates across the country. We're putting forward a very strong argument. I know that we've got to earn every vote. I'm not taking anything for granted. But all of our teams are picking up, when they talk to people on their doorsteps, that people are really fed up with a government that is spending its whole time trying to defend the indefensible in relation to Partygate, and not enough of its time focused on what's really concerning them, which is their energy bills, and the fact that this month they're getting even more tax than they got before because the government has chosen to impose more tax on them in the middle of a cost of living crisis. So we've got a positive case. We're making that case to the electorate, and this is a chance really for people who are fed up with the government to send a message to them.
And do you appreciate that you would need to make significant gains for it to be deemed a success for Labour?
Well, look, we do need to make gains. We need to hold what seats we've got. We need to increase our vote share, particularly after 2019. But we've got a fantastic set of candidates. We're making a very positive case.
Can I just ask a couple more? One on Ed Balls. Are you disappointed that he won't be standing in Wakefield as and when that by-election comes?
Well, that's a matter for Ed Balls. The disgraced Tory MP in Wakefield said he would resign, and he still hasn't actually resigned. So Wakefield deserves better than that. He should get on with it so we can have a by-election. And when we have a by-election, we'll have an excellent local candidate for Labour.
And just on Jeremy Corbyn, any chance at all that he could be a Labour MP again at the next general election?
I've made my position very clear in relation to Jeremy Corbyn, and there's obviously a process in place. And so I don't think there's much more I can say about that.